Backpacking and hiking in the winter. Port Clinton on the Appalachian Trail. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, Syntax 77 here. Let me tell you what the current situation is. Now, as of right now, I'm sitting in my lovely Jeep. Yes, the trusty VW Golf is no more. Maybe an update on that later, but here I am, and I won't be in this vehicle long. I'm actually about to hit the trail. I'm in the city, or I should probably say town, of Port Clinton in Pennsylvania. Now, in terms of larger towns, for perspective, if you've heard of Allentown, that's relatively close to where I am. I'm going to do a section of Appalachian Trail. This is just a quick trip by myself, so it's just me and you, the viewer, right now. We're going to go out. I'm going to do a few miles, go in for one night, and come out. I just got the opportunity to come out and do a little camping and backpacking, and that's what I'm going to do. It is the last day of January. We're right smack in the middle of winter here. There's some snow on the ground, which is nice, and the temperature, it's been bouncing around low 20s and high teens or so in Fahrenheit. So that's not too bad compared to sub-zero, so I'll take it. I'm going to finish my Monster here for old time's sake, just having a little Monster before I get on the trail. I'm not having a Pop-Tart. I'm actually sticking to keto on this trip. My next trip in New Hampshire, I'm going to get off of keto and do some carby backpacking food. But for right now, we'll just do a Monster and get out of here. Got my backpack back there. We'll see that once I get out of the vehicle. But yeah, I guess I'm really just procrastinating because it is actually, I mean, 18 degrees is cold. I shouldn't act like a tough guy. I don't really want to go out there. This is the part of the trip where you've been driving for several hours. It was a 2-hour drive or so for me to get here. And yeah, I'm nice and warm and comfortable, and now I got to turn the podcast off and actually get off my butt and get out there. So let's do it. There's the pack, all ready to go. Got some rain pants on there, military issue rain pants there that I picked up at the surplus store because there is in the forecast some potential either rain or snow depending on which way the temp goes for tomorrow morning. So we have that with us. All right, there it is, the trusty ULA Ohm backpack, all geared up. Here's my fancy new hat. I picked that up at the surplus store as well. Nice faux fur hat. Don't worry, it's faux fur. And we're gonna put this pack on, start walking. Hey, buddy. Now, if Port Clinton rings a bell for you, in terms of this channel at least, then you get kudos, little bonus points, because I was actually here 6 years ago, right? Maybe 6 years, 1 month, pretty close to it. Kind of hard to believe it was that long ago, but yes, I was here with Mike on a trip. I think it was my second backpacking trip ever, and we did this section of trail. Now in that case, we parked a little closer, not in a town like you just saw me do. The reason being, I'm trying to remember back then, but apparently I know that we didn't park in town. We parked up here, but when I pulled up today, because like I said, I just had a quick opportunity to do a trip, so I said, let me just go somewhere I know, and it was here. But when I pulled up, a bunch of boulders in the spot that we had originally parked the vehicle on the first time, and also a ton of signs that said no parking. So the closest option I had was in town for anybody wanting to do this as a day hike. But that's okay, it's only gonna add a little bit, I believe, in terms of mileage, and I actually thought that we did more miles before. I was thinking maybe it was 5 miles to get to the area that I'm planning to camp. But it turns out, according to my AT guide, I have a 2016 version, it's only like 3-ish miles. So not too bad, which works out well for a quick trip. Now I got a pretty substantial highway over here to my left. And from what I can tell, the trail goes directly underneath of it over here by the river. Yep, definitely going underneath the highway here. Oh, okay. Trail. Thank you, whoever did that. Much appreciated. There we go. So that is where I'm pretty certain we parked before. I rolled up to it today. They got a bunch of boulders, like I said, and signs. But we're here now. Wasn't too much of a detour. And to be honest, the spot that I parked in town in front of some businesses and houses is probably a little less shady than right here. Although it is pretty close to the road, but I've never had any problems. People often ask, do you ever have your car vandalized or anything? I mean, luckily no. And I've parked at a lot of really remote trailheads, but you know, stuff happens. But not so far, no. All right, here we go. The uphill begins. Get away from that road noise and on to a little seclusion. Well, just like old times. Just how I remember it. This beginning stretch from the highway down there takes off pretty quickly in elevation. And I was wondering when I pulled up here today, was that just an inexperienced version of myself? Carrying too much gear, not in the same shape, less experience, etc. Or was it the hill? There's other factors probably come into play, but I will tell you, I'm still huffing and puffing so far. If I remember correctly, this goes on a little while longer up this hill as we get away from the road. Now, the first time we did this trip, Mike and I, we stumbled upon a view. It looked pretty well established off of the ridge. You could tell people went there. Probably just day hiked up to get a nice view off into the mountains of Pennsylvania. It had a fire pit, a little seating area if I remember correctly. And Mike and I, since the spot was already established, decided to do some improvements like we often like to do. Oh, pardon me as I catch my breath. Not the lightest pack in the world, but it'll be fun when we get to camp. Anyway, we spruced that spot up, if you will. Made a bench, I believe, and really improved the fire pit. Made it a bit bigger. Now, I'll link up here that video if you want to check it out. But the point is, I'm wondering after 6 years, is it still there? Is the fire pit intact? Has it gotten bigger? Has it gotten knocked over? Is our bench still there? Probably not. I think it was made out of wood and rocks. Maybe somebody kept the maintenance going, or maybe it's just returned to looking like a spot in the woods. I don't know, but we'll find out. Assuming I can get my stamina up and continue up this hill. Okay, definitely time to lose a layer. Whew, I want to be careful not to overheat here. I think this hard shell has to go. If I can get my back off. Take my front pack off too. That's got all my camera gear in it. My gear, by the way, the best way to get an idea of what I'm using on this trip would be watch my winter ultralight backpacking gear list video, as well as my deep winter hammock camping system video. Between the two, that's kind of the system I'm using today. Oh God, I'm heating up. But we'll get this hard shell off, especially because you'll notice I'm wearing one layer that's not synthetic, and I usually harp on having synthetics, and it is good, but a quick overnighter like this, it's not too critical. I got a nice comfy just flannel shirt on, cotton shirt, but underneath of that, or my synthetic base layer and t-shirt, and then a synthetic just military surplus polar fleece. But I think the polar fleece and everything else will be fine. It's just the hard shell's not letting vapor escape and heat, so I was overheating. I don't want to sweat because, like I said, once this cotton gets wet, it's not going to vaporize and breathe and dry out ultimately, quite like my other layers. But now, ironically, I'm probably getting to the top of the ridge here soon, and I'll be working a lot less hard, and therefore I'll get cold again. But thus is the game of backpacking and hiking in the winter. Layer management. All right, put this away, shove it in the pack. Oh, snow all over. Luckily, it is cold enough to keep it frozen. I do like that. I'll probably just shove this right on top of my own pack under the main cinch belt here, strap. That'll keep it readily accessible if I do get chilly again. All right, let's get back on this trail. I am feeling better now. Now that I got that layer off, I'm still feeling nice and warm, but whenever that wind comes through, I can kind of feel it go through my layers and just kind of let me breathe a bit. My skin, that is. So that's nice. Now we just got to keep on following the white blazes and hoping this trail flattens out soon. Whew, I'm about ready for lunch. We're getting towards kind of the, what I guess I would call, and many others would call, the knife's edge kind of section of the trail. There's a few of these on the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania. It's not as bad as it seems. Most of the time you're not really going to fall to your death within a few inches to the left or right, but it is pretty decent of an edge, and you want to make sure to keep your footing, not just to keep from tumbling down, which would suck, but to keep from falling on your butt or face on these rocks, which I have done many times on these videos. Once really bad in Maine, and then once really bad here in Pennsylvania, a different section maybe 15 miles north of here on a day hike. Minor flashbacks to top of King Ravine video. See? Just went down. Oh. That hurt the wrist. And the shin. Alright, anyway. Similar knife's edge situation, and I just went down on my butt. It wasn't pleasant, but we'll just go nice and slow today. Probably want to get back over there, actually. This doesn't look great. There we go. And of course, be careful of the snow that looks solid, but it's actually just some leaves with not much underneath of it. That's never good either. Actually not quite sure where the trail went. Somewhere over I mean, it's got to be this direction, but I think I lost it. Considering the trail usually doesn't go through a bunch of sticker bushes, but it's got to be this way in general, so we're just going to keep on walking. Whoop, or slipping, whatever you want to call it. I think over here is what we're trying to get towards. Oh Lord, don't want that ripping my nice fancy synthetic clothing. I think I definitely took the wrong route, but we'll get there one way or another. Right down here. So it looks like the trail's actually to the left of me a bit, according to my trusty GPS. So over there, which it does look like a flat track kind of section right there. So that makes a little more sense. All right, start going to the left, carefully. Woohoo! All right, that's what I like to see right there. Back on solid ground, trucking along. And it's pretty flat, which is what I've been waiting for. Now, I did mention earlier I could use some lunch. And speaking of food, I have no traditional backpacking food on this trip, if you will. Nothing dehydrated, nothing freeze-dried, all what I would call real food. Some of it canned, but for the most part, I got a package of hot dogs. I got a little Ziploc twist-shut Tupperware kind of container with about 6 eggs in it that I can use for either dinner or breakfast tomorrow, probably both. Got some corned beef hash, I got some diced ham, I got a bunch of real food. So I don't have to worry about collecting extra water, but I'm obviously carrying a lot of extra weight on my back right now, but it should be a fairly short hike, so it's not a big deal. And the cool thing about water is where I'm headed, I believe there was a sign last time and it was called Pocahontas Spring. If that's official or not, I don't know. Somebody put a sign there. Again, this was 6 years ago. But pretty reliable from what I could tell when we were there spring. And in my AT guide, which is a couple years old, but 2016 edition, it says it's a very reliable spring. So that's where I'm headed. And that's pretty close to, it's not an official campsite, but it's pretty well established, I'd say, unofficial campsite along the Appalachian Trail. Now, one thing to look out for around here when you're in Pennsylvania, a couple things. Right now we're in state game lands. Now they have routed the Appalachian Trail through here. There's an agreement that that's perfectly fine. Just something to be aware of. A couple things. First off, it is, in general, as far as I know, the law may have changed, but I researched it pretty heavily before I came on that first trip. You can't camp in state game lands. So obviously that poses a problem because you're on the Appalachian Trail. It's kind of a gray area. As far as I can tell, it's okay if you're on the Appalachian Trail corridor. I would not advise straying too far away from the trail though, because then you're going to be deeper into the actual game lands, and there are laws against that. And I think the main reason really is so that people don't set up unofficial hunting camps. We kind of touched on this in the first video back in 2011 when we were here. Beyond that, you also want to keep in mind when you're on the Appalachian Trail, you've been seeing these white blazes, right? Well, those are rectangles. Remember that. They also use white dots, or a lot of times just white splotches, to designate the boundaries of game lands in Pennsylvania. It's a real pain in the butt for thru hikers. I've met thru hikers in this area before that have been led astray by this. They start following the game land boundary white splotches, and then suddenly realize after a little while that they are not on the Appalachian Trail. They've been led astray. So just a couple things to look out for when you're in Pennsylvania going through game lands on the Appalachian Trail. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, I'm hungry. I think I'm gonna have hot dogs for lunch. I'm getting up closer now too. I believe, just gut instinct, closer to where Mike and I built our little upgraded viewing area. I almost thought right here was it, but I don't think so, because I don't see anything, and I think the view is a little better than this. Although it's possible it's completely gone, but I doubt it. There's got to at least be some remnants of the fire pit, perhaps a little further up here. But I don't know, we'll see. Seems like a goofy thing, but I haven't been here in years. I'm kind of curious. Now, fire pit viewing area aside, I do believe I at least recognize this area here, which is where I'm fairly certain Mike and I stayed on the last night of our 3-night trip out here. And somewhere in here, we went off the trail, like I said, not too far because of the whole game lands thing, and we set up our tent. Back then we didn't have hammocks at all. I don't even think I really knew that people did sleep with hammocks, but in the wilderness at least. But that's what we'll be doing tonight, once I find somewhere to set up. But one step at a time, right? And you know what? It may be anticlimactic, but I believe, yeah, I think this is it. I don't see any remnants of a sitting area, but that is one big fire pit. Yeah, that's got to be it. I think that's it. Pretty cool. It is all types of covered with snow, of course. And there appears to be a grate there. That's nice. But as you can see, pretty good view. Now, Mike and I, when we were here, I think those little saplings weren't there. But you can see a little bit more, but looks pretty similar to the view we had. So I'm back. And some of these rocks laying around are most likely the remnants of what was our bench. Now, I didn't really expect to see that here. Still alive. It was a bunch of like saplings and fallen small trees that we cut and put together. Spent a whole day doing it, really. It's funny the things you do when you have a whole day in the woods, which I guess I'm about to have, or a half day. Right now it's about it's 1:34. And it's up to about 33.8 degrees, or I shouldn't say about if I'm using decimal points, right? It's exactly 33.8 degrees. Feeling pretty good. I'm moving, so I'm not cold at all. And a little bit further, Pocahontas Spring, and set up camp by like midday, or at least probably before 3 o'clock. Cook some hot dogs, hang out. I'll show you my new hammock setup. Well, I'll show you later. You know, hang in there. We'll get to it. Remember to stay hydrated, people. I often get in the groove, start hiking along, not paying attention, and not realizing that I'm not drinking enough water. Alright, the trail, which has been mostly level for, I want to say, almost a mile now, it's finally starting to kind of taper towards the downhill slant here, which I believe, oh look, turkey tracks. That's cool. Which I believe means that we're getting towards what I'm going to call Pocahontas Springs. Now, that was flowing pretty good before. What I didn't mention, though, that I also have a stove, obviously, to cook my food with, and that will allow me to melt snow, which, as you can see, I have plenty around me to work with. Now, it's not that deep like in New Hampshire on some of those trips where we have like 6 feet of snow to scoop from, but if I really have to, I can scoop. Now, because it's only a couple inches thick, it's not ideal because I'm going to be scraping leaves and pine needles out of my water. If I do that, the deeper your snowpack is, the more likely you can just kind of take those first few inches off and then melt the stuff underneath. But I'm fairly certain, based on that last trip, that the spring will be flowing pretty good. I can't remember if it has like a pipe sticking out or if it's just a stream. I think it might be both. So we'll check that out. But yeah, it's definitely going downhill now. So I'm going to keep my eyes open and my ears open to listen for flowing water. All right, I can dig it. That is the sign. That is the water, which means A, I don't have to melt snow, and B, there's a campsite somewhere right around here. And I'm gonna set up, see what we got. Oh wow, okay, so here it is right here. Now, when Mike and I were here, I don't quite remember being this close to the trail, but I guess we were. Although right now it's winter, all this fresh snow on the ground, I haven't seen any tracks other than turkey. Nothing out here but animals right now. So I'm not too worried about being close to the trail. I usually don't do that for the sake of other people hiking. It just kind of ruins your immersion, I think, when there's a tent like right on the trail. And then B, you know, like most of you out there, I assume, you kind of want to be alone and not have people walking by when you're camping, but I don't think anybody's coming out here right now. And speaking of fire pits, or at least earlier I was speaking of fire pits, check that guy out right there. I do remember that. And Mike and I beefed that guy up too. We're just a little obsessed with making large fire pits. Now, I can't take full credit for that, of course. This is a well-established spot, and that's been there for years. And it's super huge. And it's probably changed a lot since we've been here. But I'll be clearing that out. I'm trying to make a fire tonight. Fires, you know, I can get them started, usually. Not necessarily my forte, but we'll see what happens. Can't wait to get this pack off, though. Let's do that first, shall we? Oh man. Yeah, that feels pretty good to have off. Also, most likely, as of right now, I'll probably cool off a little bit, but that's another hat. These are the surplus pants that I kind of alluded to earlier. And these are, now this is not the Gore-Tex version. These are just straight up, I think they're nylon material, so they don't breathe really, but they are super water resistant and they will also trap body heat. So when I'm around camp, I can kneel on the ground, do chores, etc., and I won't have to worry about my pants getting wet and damp because these are just regular fleece lined. Shout out to Frank.
You want my fleece pants?
Oh yeah, fleece pants in the house.
Back at it.
Yep, got my fleece lined pants, but they are not waterproof, so they'll soak up a bunch of moisture. These will keep me dry, and then on top of that, they'll keep the heat in because it is, what's the temp right now? 30, which is pretty warm by today's standards, but it's going to drop, like I said, probably another 15 degrees. That'll trap my body heat, and now that I'm not moving and hiking, I would have been sweating my butt off earlier if I had those on. Not a good move. When I go to New Hampshire next week, I'll probably keep them on the whole time because I'll be in deep snow and it'll be colder and I'll be going slower. But, you know, it's all about different strategies for different trips. Compared to my previous ones, which were just some like warm-up pants. There was some soccer team, I believe, that I got at TJ Maxx for like 15 bucks. I've been using them for like 5 years. And they were nylon as well and waterproof, but these are much stronger, or thicker I should say. They're battle tested, if you will. The other cool thing is, on the bottom, unlike my other pants, you can cinch them down around your boot to make it a little more fit. But on top of that, I can unzip really far, almost all the way up to the knee, I believe, so that I can put these on over top of all my existing clothing and boots, everything, without taking any clothes off or boots off, even more importantly, which with my other warm-up pants solution I couldn't do. Not only is there a zipper, but there's Velcro, so keeps it nice and secure. I got drawstrings at the top. Another nice thing about these that I really like, up top here, they're kind of baggy, and I did that on purpose so I can get lots of layers underneath. Check this out, more Velcro. I can pop open, and actually this Velcro looks like a pocket, but it goes right inside, and it goes just to my other pants. So with my other system where it was an actual separate pair of pants over top, the hard shell, I would have to make sure to transfer the items that I wanted readily accessible. And a lot of times I forgot to do that, so I'd have to undo the top and reach down my waist. And Now I can actually just go into my pocket, access my stuff, and I'm good to go. So I can whip these on and off. If rain comes, if cold comes, I don't have to worry. I can quickly get warm or dry anytime I want. Now, the only other thing is, since we're doing a little fashion show right now, might as well keep it going. Complete the look. My fancy new hat. Oh, my head is warmer already. Now, if I was hiking in this, I mean, I wouldn't look as cool as I do now, but I would have overheated most likely. For around camp though, it's pretty good. Plus, you know, if you want to go one step further for fashion or warmth, oh yeah, now we're good. This will definitely come in handy later tonight. I can even put my thin wool hat underneath for extra warmth. And yeah, I'm feeling good now. Styling. I've got my sealskins gloves on that I've mentioned in some other videos. They are nylon and breathable, but water resistant as well. So when I'm messing around with the snow, they won't get wet. I also have some work gloves that I'll bust out later to put over top for collecting firewood, doing chores, etc. That'll save the wear and tear on these and add some extra warmth. Although the work gloves are just some cheapies for like $6 I got, so they will get wet and whatnot. But they'll be on the outside and it shouldn't be able to permeate these sealskins. So we're getting in warmth mode here because the temperature is dropping, but my style points are only going up. First things first though, I got my 6-foot piece of Tyvek as a ground cloth. It's folded in half right now, so it's a 3-foot by 3-foot square. That'll keep my stuff dry while I unpack and organize, and then later on I'll unfold it completely and it'll go underneath of my hammock so I can put my feet down when I have no boots on, etc. It's pretty convenient, but for now it's like a staging area. There's my hammock. And I got the sock in there too. You notice it looks pretty big, right? Although it can squish down pretty small as well. Double-ended stuff sack with my hammock and my 11-foot Dutch winter vented sock with zipper attachment, which we'll see in a little bit when I get set up. My work gloves for collecting wood and whatnot. Extra hat. My fry pan in a Ziploc bag so that I don't have to worry about it being too clean on the way out. And I have some utensils in there that I've wrapped in paper towels to keep it from scratching, and I can also use that to clean if needed. Under and top quilts, fuel, a titanium cup that I'll use for coffee, beverages, etc. And it has some paper towels and matches, fire starting stuff in it. And last but not least, my 1980s Msr Rapid-Fire Stove in this stuff sack here. I'll be hooking him up soon so I can make some hot dogs. There he is. He works just with canisters, but you'll notice it looks a lot like an Msr Whisperlight stove. In the future, I'll probably get a lighter weight, more modern version, but for now that works just great. It's nice and dependable. Inside the bag, a couple tools I probably won't need for maintaining it. This one's wrapped in some paper towel and duct tape. It has a little pin that I can use to clean the fuel jet nozzle if needed, but I most likely won't need those, so I'm going to keep them nice and secure in the stuff sack. I got a seat here that we'll see later. That's a new camp chair, and Dutch folding sit pad, weighs under ½ an ounce, adds a little warmth to my chair, or I can sit right on a stump or something with that. Fossils bowl, separate video on that, but it looks like a plate. It can be used as a plate, but it also folds up into a bowl shape. That'll be for my food. And then my Coleman saw. Now this is ironic. This Coleman saw has been around for a while on the channel and in my life. It's actually Mike's. I stole it by accident at some point. I don't know. We share gear and it's just been at my house forever. We take it on trips together. Anyway, it's Coleman folding saw. Folds out. Oh, now you see the next thing I was about to say. Ironically, I did a video recently on camp saws and I asked for some advice or feedback from viewers on camp saws, and they said they were really surprised I was still using this Coleman saw, and they offered up some advice on like Silky and Corona and a couple other ones. There's one Gomboy or something like that. Anyway, I was looking into it and some of them were very affordable, like 20 bucks, and then the more expensive ones like 40. I was going to buy like a $20 one, but I was like, you know what, let me take this Coleman out on one last trip at least before I spend more money that I don't have to. And just now, in between shots, I was chopping up, or I should say sawing up a little bit of wood, thinking ahead for firewood tonight. and I wasn't being too aggressive. I was just going to town, and this thing was working really good, and I was thinking to myself, see, this thing's fine. Can't wait to mention that on the video. And then the blade popped off. And the failure point was the plastic. The plastic just broke. Now this is 6 going on 7 years old. It's from 2011. It's been through a lot. The blade itself still cuts pretty well. Actually really well. I got some good cuts done before it blew up, but the plastic finally broke. I mean, this was probably 20 bucks as well, maybe even 15 or less, 12 at Walmart, I have no idea. And it lasted 6 years, but I guess you guys are right. It's time for a new saw. Chime in the comment section, but should I get Corona, Gomboy, or Silky? What do you think? What's the best value? Because I need a new saw. In the meantime, I'm going to try to I think I can put it in there and clip this back, and I can still use it like this. It just keeps going forward, so I'm going to try to get some rope and put it through that hole there and fix it in place. My thoughts are, at a more established site like this, all the small, easy, low-hanging fruit, if you will, when it comes to firewood has been picked clean. So if you're at a more popular spot, you want to bring a saw, because you can pick up the stuff that most people who are just using their hands to break little twigs and stuff are going to skip over. Side pockets and stuff have smaller items, but you can check out my gear video that I talked about earlier, winter ultralight backpacking gear video, if you want to see the rest of the nitty-gritty items in my pack. Right now, I want to get my hammock set up and then start eating some hot dogs. All right then, we've got ourselves a hammock set up. Now these were about the only 2 trees around here, at least close to the fire pit and this kind of flat area, that I could get a hammock between. It's about pushing the boundaries of closeness between trees, but it's working. Now I am missing my underquilt for bottom insulation and top quilt for top insulation, and it very well might need a little bit of extra adjustment. On top of that though, there's one other thing that I haven't shown you yet. You might be able to see it hanging down there. Now if you watch my deep winter hammock camping video where I showed my whole system for, at least in my case, the coldest I would go down to -10 or so, maybe even -20 if I was really pushing it. You are already familiar with the system, but this is a Dutch winter sock, a vented winter sock. Allow me to show you what it does. As seen in that video, I have the insulation like I mentioned as well. This goes over top of all that, and I'm kind of cocooned on the inside. Now, one thing I did mention on that video is, you saw how I just drug that down? Normally, I would have to do that while I'm laying inside of the hammock, which is fine. You can kind of shimmy up and get it done. But with this new system, pull it around the proper way here. You can see there's the vent so that I can see the world as well as let my condensation breath out. This one has a zipper. So, once I set it up like I just did, I'm done. I can now put this back and hop right in. And remember, if you're new to hammock camping, keep in mind that I don't have my quilts on here yet. I should take my boots off. What I'm about to do is for the sake of science. I don't advise this, but you can see how once you get in, just grab it. There's a zipper pull that's accessible both inside and out. It's double-sided. And I'll probably keep most of it zippered on this side. Yeah, that looks about right for tonight when I get in. Way easier. Look at that. All zipped up. Can you see me? Probably not. But I'm in here. I already feel a little warmer. Although my butt's cold. Yep, I need an underquilt. It's a Dutch wear chameleon hammock, which also I have another accessory for, called the sidecar. It hangs off the side, allows me to put my boots or any other item, beverages, stuff I need nearby at night, right hanging off of here. It's like a giant pocket. So we'll get these on. There's always a tag on your hammock gear. That means it is the head end. So I know that I should set this up towards the end that has my vent. Unlike my deep winter hammock camping system video, these are only 20-degree quilts instead of 0, which which means I'm personally comfortable with taking these. I stole them from my wife. I'm comfortable with bringing this down to about 10 degrees, which is way beyond what we're expected to get. Like I said, around 15 maybe degrees tonight, so this is just fine. Everybody sleeps different, warmer, colder, etc. So keep that in mind, but personally, I find that hammock gear, with my body type, can push them 10 degrees below the rating. You may have different results. All right, stuff that guy in there. Pop that in, let it start fluffing up. All right, finally, lunchtime. Let's get to cooking. Got my fry pan here, MSR. Quick skillet, or is it the flex skillet? I think the quick skillet is smaller. This is the flex skillet. Got the stove like I showed you, and we'll spark this guy up. Now, I just got my bag of food, fork and knife, and I also have a plastic light my fire double-ended eating tool, if you will. I brought this because since it's plastic, there's a non-stick coating on my MSR pan, and I'm not as worried about messing it up. Oh, you also notice I'm sitting in my comfy new chair, the Maylite chair, I believe it's called, by Alight, apparently, A-L-I-T-E. Mike found this, turned me onto it, and this is the first trip I took it out on. But enough of that, let's sit down and get some cooking going. All right, let's get this a little further out in front, spark it up, get the gloves off for dexterity. It's not terribly cold, at least I've been moving around, so I'm not freezing yet. In here, paper towels, matches, lighter. In my front pack that I carry my camera gear in, I also have my first aid kit, and along with that, tied to my front pack, I have a little fire starting, I always call it a flint and steel, but it's not. It's like a ferro rod, I guess, to make sparks. That's actually how I usually start the stove, but since I'm right here right now and I don't feel like getting up, let's get it started like this. So, we're already hooked up with the canister stove. Just open her up. I can hear it coming out. Spark it. Now, right now it is probably in the 20s. So it's borderline. I probably could use this upright like it is, but under freezing, below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, I think it's best if you do have a stove like this, where it's a remote stove with a canister, you might as well flip it over. It's going to run a lot better in liquid mode, so we'll do that. But we're going to wait until this steel gets nice and red, which means that fuel tube is heated up so that when the liquid comes down and hits it, it'll turn into a gas right around here prior to getting to the flame. While it's heating up, I got some hot dogs. You can tell I picked these up close to Baltimore. Picked up some diced ham for breakfast tomorrow. This will be my dinner tonight, although at this point it's going to be a real late dinner because my lunch is going to be around 4 o'clock apparently. Corned beef with hot chili, no carbs in that. My eggs, oh, good thing I put it in a Ziploc bag. So that's my little Tupperware, and it did leak a little bit. This will be my breakfast tomorrow and dinner tonight. Now, since I'm not eating carbs, except for the leaves on this apparently, my calories are mostly coming from fat, so I am not afraid of some butter. Stove's working pretty well. I probably don't need to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and flip it to inversion. Because this is a rapid fire, I can flip it over. And if it was super cold, which it's not right now, we wouldn't have to worry about how that gas is burning off in there, because sometimes when you run it upright, that propane wants to escape first. It will burn off first, and you'll be left with butane in there. It doesn't work too well in colds. Woo, yeah, that's hot. Open this guy up so I can attract all the bears in town. We'll make sure to put this, I do have a Ziploc that I can reseal this up in, and then I'll put it on my bear bag tonight. Look at that. Woohoo, we're cooking now. Nice and browned up. So what I'll do is take that off, and then I'm going to flip this over and turn it off. Now, one thing to be aware of with these systems, I have that completely shut, the valve. It's still burning. That really freaked me out the first time I did it. Don't worry, it just has to burn off the fuel that's left in the line. so there's nothing wrong with your stove. It's not out of control. That actually burned out pretty quick. Takes longer depending on the temperature outside, I guess, because sometimes it takes up to like a minute. Anyway, that's done. Enough blabbing. I want my food to be hot, right? Yep. Get that nice butter in there. I'm just going to leave this nice and buttery because I'll be cooking dinner in it and attracting animals probably. I should have stopped somewhere and stole some mustard packets or something, but something tells me out here right now this is going to be pretty good. Oh my god. I'm telling you, there's nothing like it. I know I geek out on a lot of these videos eating food in the middle of the woods, and it looks like some simple food, whether it's a dehydrated backpacking meal or some hot dogs like I just made, but it's so good. A nice hot meal in the middle of nowhere. Some trail mix would be great, but a hot meal. That is next level. That is so good. It's going to give me the morale, I hope, to go around and collect some firewood, because the next thing I need for morale is a fire. Although, first things first, it did dawn on me, I haven't even put up my tarp yet. I got the sock up, but that is just to block wind and residual moisture. You would not want to use that just to keep rain off of you. That would be no bueno. Probably get that out of the way now before it gets dark. Actually, you know what I just said? That's very true. A tarp is important. I, however, though, feel like living on the edge. Actually, to be more accurate, I just don't feel like setting up my tarp. Rain/snow, like I said, is forecasted for tomorrow, sometime in the AM. I'm headed out directly to my car. Like I said, the sock is not intended to protect you from rain, and I wouldn't want to be in that situation, getting rained on in the sock. But I'm going to take my chances. No tarp on this trip. Which gives me more time to collect firewood. Alright, those will be nice later. Keep cutting these up. But that's not going to start a fire, of course. My favorite part. We got to go out and collect some small stuff to get this thing started. Where's Trail Killer when you need him? Not here this time. Let's see what we got here. Just looking for small stuff. Now, if I come across something dead and fallen, it's a little bigger, well, that's my game plan, because I have a saw and I can cut it up. And hopefully stuff like that has been left behind by someone else. Although stuff like this, it's like a vine, but I'll take it. I mean, it seems pretty dry. We'll find out. For getting the fire started, we're gonna need even smaller stuff than this tiny guy even, but it's a start. Now, duff and twigs and stuff like that, not exactly easy to find right now because there's a layer of snow everywhere. I could dig underneath, but I'm just going to look for some fallen trees that have some small branches and twigs and stuff and break that up to really get some kindling to get this started. Now, luckily, when I brushed the snow off of this, there are some dry leaves in there. They're going to burn quick, hot, fast. Ain't going to last long, but it might help get something going. But basically, just keep going with this small stuff and even smaller until we get something to get started here. Since it's just me right now, I mean, normally Mike and I would work this, and at a certain point of collection, one person, usually Mike, would start building the teepee, and I would keep collecting, and then he could light it and start feeding it, and then we could kind of do shift work. One person keeps an eye on it, the other person is getting wood. When you're by yourself, a little different. So it's tough. I mean, you got to convince yourself to collect. Basically, I'm going to go around and collect what I can until I get to the point where I'm just impatient, basically, and I'll start lighting this thing up. But then I got to keep an eye on it and not run too far away to collect stuff to feed it, because plenty of times by myself, by the time I come back, the fire is out and I have to start from scratch. So it's a tough balance. What are you going to do? All right, let's go get some wood. Back into the woods. Losing daylight. It's getting cold. Gotta keep working it. But, I mean, what else do I really have to do right now? This is it. Good cardio too, I guess. Alright, well, now I've reached the, what I'll call the impatient stage. So I got my lighter and a wet fire starter. You can get packs of these. You can also make your own fire starters. Very simple with Mike's favorite, my friend Mike, Trail Killer, aka Trail Slipper. He uses dryer lint and melts candle wax, mixes it together. That works really good. Cotton balls and Vaseline work good. This wet fire stuff works pretty good too. Does cost a couple dollars, but I just picked some up the other day to play with it. I have tried it before. If I can find my knife, I will cut off a little bit of it because I don't want to use too much. It doesn't take much, so there's no reason to waste it. Matter of fact, using my busted saw, I can probably just shave some off. Let's get this snow out of the way. It should light wet, so just doing this right on here shouldn't matter. Now usually, see how it crumbles? I'm losing some of it, but actually the saw blade's pretty handy. So that's like a quarter of it, which is probably even overkill. I did like a combo in here, not because I know what I'm doing, but because it was fun and random. On the bottom I did like what you would call a log cabin, kind of a square shape, a bunch of sticks, just kept piling them around and around until I had like a small base of sticks and a log cabin configuration, for lack of a better description. And then on top I did a teepee where I just lined up sticks like that. Then I also have these leaves in here, which, like I said, they're gonna burn really fast. Let me push some in there. Hopefully they're not too saturated. Most of this snow is brushing off pretty easily, so let's see if I can get these in there. I have some in there already, mixed in with that log cabin setup, whatever you want to call it. But sprinkle some of this in there, put a lighter to it. I left a little opening for my hands. I am realizing now I put my fire starter on top of these leaves that are going to instantly burn, so it might drop down further into the fire pit here, but let's just see what happens. We got more fire starter if we need to. So that stuff lights up quick. Now, here comes the tough part when you're impatient like me and by yourself. I got to keep feeding it small sticks. That fire starter is really good for continuous burning, but it's only going to last so long. In my experience with the wet fire, maybe 10, 12, 15 minutes max. And I just did a little bit, so. Keep putting these leaves in there. They're not sparking up super quick, so they probably are kind of wet. I just hope that the twigs that I have as the base start lighting up. Now I have to run around and continue to collect firewood. This is the crucial time where, at least for me personally, human nature, you want to stare at fire, right? I just want to stare at this thing. But I have to keep running around and collecting wood. And then if that pays off, I'll have a fire, at least for a couple hours tonight. Since I'm alone, I'm probably not going to stay up too late, but it is a real good morale booster to hang out, especially by yourself, in the woods, in the snow, with a fire. I like it. So, stage one complete. We got flames. That's good. Let's see if this baby lights up a little more. Now, the most ideal thing is when you get to camp just to go all in, collect all your firewood at once. But that could take a while, especially if you're like bored by yourself like me, or you just want the comfort of a fire. By the way, I'm covered in synthetic. I shouldn't get too close to this thing like this, but gotta do what you gotta do. Anyway, like I said, it's a balance, and there's more effective ways to do it than this, but it's also not the most complicated thing in the world. I mean, fire is something that is kind of, I mean, it has to be on some level kind of genetically baked into us, right? I mean, I know at least in the case of staring at a fire, that is definitely something that was built in through evolution, right? I mean, in the past, if you didn't enjoy staring at a fire, then you were more likely to walk away in the middle of the night and, well, be eaten by a lion or something, and you wouldn't pass your genes on, right? So on top of that, I believe that most likely it's kind of genetic in us, hard-coded to make a fire. And on top of that, it's really not that complicated. I mean, I almost view it kind of like cooking, where it's something that we all need to do. It's essential to life. It's very simple, but at the same time, it can be perfected to a high level, right? As evidenced by many bushcraft people out there. They do fire at a whole nother level. They're just super effective at it. But on top of that, it's also pretty simple, right? I mean, we went around, we collected some wood, hopefully some dry stuff. We applied a flame to it. Now that's the tough part, but you get that flame to it, and then you just start building your way up. Smaller sticks, medium sticks, bigger sticks, and hopefully by the end of the night, I'm getting whole logs on here the size of my head. It's not the end of the world. Now, if you're better at it, you might get it started in 5 minutes. And if you're not as effective, maybe 50 minutes. But keep at it, you'll get to it. I mean, I got this thing going, and I used a couple terms like log cabin and teepee, but for the most part I just threw a bunch of crap on here, put a flame to it, and persistently collected more and more wood. Hope for the best. And honestly, worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, this isn't a survival situation. I'm just gonna go over there to my hammock, bundle up in my down quilts, and go to bed. But as of right now, it's looking pretty good. Now it's time for some dinner. So I got some hot chili seasoned corned beef. I got my eggs. So I'm gonna try to do some eggs and corned beef hot chili style. It's burning pretty good. Now right now it is, according to my watch, 24 degrees. Not too bad. So I might not even have to flip this thing over if it's working well, but let's get that on there. In the meantime, check this out. It comes with a little key. I've never had one of these before, but this lovely, apparently product of Brazil, as it says on there. Oh yeah, okay. Opening it up pretty good. Pretty easy. Got my pan. More of a breakfast food, I know, but I think it should make a good dinner. It's pretty late now. It takes a lot of time to do those chores. It's like 7 something. I don't know where the time goes, but I've been hanging out, feeding the fire, and yeah, it's about where I'm at. So that looks pretty good to me. Maybe turn that down to a little more of a simmer. There we go. Yep, nice. Another reason I brought this stove, besides the fact that it can flip over, even when I don't need that functionality, like right now, compared to my little $5 canister stove that I've shown before. I love that thing. It's only like 3 ounces, screws right on top. But the flame pattern is just like a circle like this big, and it just doesn't cook as controlled. So this will be better for real cooking. Now, when I go on a trip, if it's summertime and I just want to boil water and dump it in one of those dehydrated bags, I wouldn't bother with this at all for a lot of reasons. All I want to do is boil that water and I'm good to go. But for cooking like this, I want it a little more controlled. And since we're about to add eggs into the mix, I think I am going to flip this guy over very carefully. I'll hold the pan just in case so it doesn't flip. That should increase the pressure. Oh yeah, it's cranking now. 1, 2, 3 eggs, and put the lid back on as tight as I can. Apparently this thing failed. It was a Glad. I've used the Ziploc ones before. We put it in our backpack with salsa and queso and all kinds of crazy stuff. My wife and I, never leaked. So that's kudos to the Ziploc brand. But the Glad brand here, I don't know, could have been user error, but it did leak on me. Now, honestly, I probably should have had a lid for this to help me thaw out or heat up the corned beef hash. Probably wasted a bunch of fuel by cooking this open top like this, but it's alright. Looking pretty good. So a little more finessing, and we'll have some corned beef hash with eggs for dinner. That's a big old pot. Replace some calories. It smells amazing. Fresh eggs. Oh man. Woo. Thought those hot dogs were good. This is amazing. And I haven't even hit a runny egg yet. But I've been running around this whole time just feeding this fire, which is dying down a little bit, but I have a nice bed of coals, some solid flames there, and I'm finally burning some larger logs. So I'm confident I can get through my meal here without the fire dying. So I'm just going to enjoy this. Runny yolk, spicy corned beef hash. Wow. In the middle of the woods in Pennsylvania. This is going to put me to bed, people. This is a great meal. Wow. That's awesome. I feel amazing. So I'm going to finish this up, play with the fire for a little bit, probably put a podcast on, listen to that for a little bit, relax, hit the hammock, count some sheep, and we'll wake up in the morning and see where the day takes us. I do believe that's daylight out there. I do believe I'm trying to wake up. Not a whole lot of light gets in here. Hopefully you can see me. It's just starting to get light. Seems kind of overcast again. Although it is 7 o'clock. Slept great though. Slept really nice. Used my new hang time hook, which I'll show you guys once I get out of here. It's called the hang time hook. Somebody sent it to me to try out. He made it on a 3D printer. I used that hanging from my ridgeline to watch a video or two in my hammock. It's kind of nice. And then I fell asleep. And here I am. Slept great. According to my watch, it's only in the low 30s. 32 or 34, something like that. Maybe a little cooler outside, obviously. This vent here, I didn't actually have like this all night. I had this flipped around so the vent was just kind of near where my face was pointed so that my breath could get out. But it was more pulled over, so it wasn't venting as much. And no issue with condensation or anything, but it wasn't that cold. And I usually don't have issues like that, but everybody sleeps differently. But for me, the sock works really well, keeps me warm, not clammy. I like it. I guess it's time for me to get up now, though. Or I should say, out of the hammock, which I really don't want to do, but I should. And we'll cook some breakfast. All right. It's getting brighter. Not bad. Used my new faux fur hat as kind of a pillow last night. That was nice. Here's the flashlight hanging up here. I got some stuff sacks that I keep stuff in. I guess that makes sense, right? And then here's the ridgeline organizer I was talking about. Just slides back and forth. Has a little grippy thing on it, and my phone hangs from it. So I had a video downloaded. I just watched that last night. Download Netflix or whatever. Get a little entertainment. I know that's not the reason some of you come out here, but I decided to try it last night, and it was pretty fun. Got my Tyvek sheet down here, and I did put the rain cover on my pack just in case, and put my rain pants over top of my boots. But as you can see, luckily didn't need it. Hasn't rained, at least not yet, although according to the forecast before I came up here, it was supposed to open up at some point. I've seen anywhere from 10 to 1 o'clock, so we'll see. We'll have some breakfast and hopefully be packed up before we get rained on. One thing about Tyvek, on a steep hill like I am, it's a little slippery, but that's okay. Get these back on for warmth without falling down the hill. Get some breakfast going. Actually, first things first, I need to get some water. I'll show you that I brought a different water system this time just for experimentation. I've used it once before, but in a different configuration. So, I'll show you that. Speaking of needing water, here's something interesting. For my new system, this is the bag I have for it. Got a big old chunk of ice in there though. It's actually starting to thaw now a little bit more. But, let's say it really was messing me up. It was a bigger chunk and I wanted room for water so I can filter water, which we're about to do. With this CNOC bag, CNOC Outdoors, yeah, this is the first trip I ever brought it on. I can slide the end off here, and let's see if I can just, yeah. So now this end opens like that. And that makes it easier to scoop water. When I got water last night, I scooped it right up. But it should also make it possible to dump out large chunks of ice like that. Come on. A little too wide. There we go. But you get the idea. That actually worked pretty well. That is an unanticipated advantage of this system I hadn't thought of until today. And of course, if I was really desperate for water, I would just try to heat that up with body heat rather than wasting it. But right down here is Pocahontas Spring, so let's go grab some water. This one here was actually working pretty good last night. And the system I'm using today, I don't believe it's actually available for sale by itself yet, but here it is. It's called the Sawyer Micro. If you see me use the Sawyer Squeeze, or more aptly comparable to this, the Sawyer Mini, it's very similar to that, but it appears to just be like an even shorter version. Now, the way I got my hands on this was I tested out the Sawyer S3, which if you want more info on that, check out my abandoned Air Force Base video. There was some potentially contaminated water in that area with like just bad stuff, long story. Anyway, the S3 is a pretty hardcore filter. It has a whole big old red attachment that goes on here as well, and some foam inside that you squeeze back and forth with the water, neutralizes any chemical agents in there, and then you squeeze it through the last stage, which is the Sawyer Micro here. And that works like normal backpacking filters, at least normal for me, meaning it's just simply a hollow fiber membrane filter that is getting rid of protozoa, cysts, bacteria, stuff like that. Anyway, I took that off of that system and I'm just going to use it today by itself with the CNOC bag you just saw, because it has, you can see last night I got too close to the fire, my new sealskin gloves. I got to patch that up somehow. I got a little pinhole in there from the heat. Kind of sucks. But anyway, the cap on the end, tested it at home and I used it last night. It did work just fine. Threads right on. So now the Sawyer Micro is about 2 ounces and the bag, which holds 2 liters, is 2 ounces as well. So let's see how this guy works. Now, one of the things to look out for with a system like this is I'm dipping into the water here that's potentially contaminated, right? So what I don't want to do is have my filter dangling on there while I'm going in, scooping up water, because then I'll be dunking my filter, including the clean end, into the potentially contaminated water. So I have the filter off, and I'm just going to open up the scoop end here. And hopefully this breaks in a little bit. It already seems to be opening easier than when I first got it. I'm just going to hold it open. Hold it right there on this water source. Now in this case, the wide mouth isn't really super advantageous, but it is faster. But like I said, if you had standing water, like a larger puddle or something, you could scoop right in. But even this is filling up rather quickly, and it's full. So now I'm just going to put that plastic piece on again, hold it over like this, put this on, slide till it clicks. All right, there's my bag. Now I can flip it over, attach the filter, and start squeezing it out. Let's go over here though and do that. All right, got my 40 below bottle and bottle boot that keeps the water from, or at least impedes its freezing. And I put some hot water in there to heat it up on the stove last night. Didn't use that for warmth in the hammock, but just to keep it or slow it down from freezing this morning. And this top, now with my Nalgene bottles, they'll get stuck sometimes, and man, they get stuck. This one, if I feel it's stuck, every time so far, I just tap it on a log or even the ground just a couple times. This is a much more flexible, soft material. Even when it gets cold, it doesn't get brittle. Because of that flexibility or something, I don't know, but it seems to come unstuck, the threads, very easily on this guy, so I do like this. So, get him set up there, and we're just going to start squeezing out. Now, one thing I did notice last night, I'm used to using a Katadyn Be-Free. I've done some other videos on that if you're interested. It's a similar system in that it uses a hollow fiber membrane, but it has more surface area. It's hard to describe unless you see it. Maybe I'll throw in an insert. See, kind of looks like that. See, there's that whole network of fibers in there. Whereas this one, the fibers are inside. It's fine, it gets the job done, but it is slow. Now, the micro, I'm assuming it's gonna be at least as slow as the mini, perhaps slower. And that's the reason I stopped using my mini and actually went back to using the original Sawyer a couple years ago, because it was just too slow, even new. And then once it starts slowing down and needing to be back flushed just from regular usage, I found the mini got painfully slow. So I don't know if the micro has improved those issues or not. As of right now, you know, it's flowing a lot slower than my Be-Free, but it is flowing. And I should also point out, full disclosure, the Be-Free from Katadyn and the Sawyer Squeeze here were both sent to me for evaluation, so keep that in mind. But as of right now, this is working just fine, and I like that it has that threading system for situations like this. Like this bag here has the smaller thread that would not work with my Be-Free. So between the two, I've got an opportunity to run a pretty good variety of systems. And I also did, speaking of flow rate, make sure to keep this Sawyer Micro in a plastic baggie and in my pocket around camp, as well as in my hammock sock system over there with me, just to keep it from freezing. Now, Sawyer doesn't officially have any testing that says that freezing it will damage it, but they don't have anything that says it's safe after you freeze it either, so I would avoid doing that with these systems. This can be configured in a gravity situation as well, where you wouldn't even actually be applying pressure to squeeze. Now, it would go even slower, any gravity system will, compared to being squeezed, but at that point you're off doing some other type of chore, so it doesn't really matter. So that's an option too. And now we got water for me to hydrate, and I can cook some ham and eggs, pack up, and get back on the trail. Pan, my little cook set up here, bear bag. Oh, it's really just all my groceries in a bag. I tied them up to some line and put it in a tree over there last night. Keep the critters away, especially because I got all this good real food, right? Cook some breakfast. Oh, okay. Yeah, I really should have thought of that. Really, why wouldn't I predict this would happen? My eggs are frozen. That's good. Well, I guess I could sit here and work them. But I could just eat hot dogs for breakfast. Or some more corned beef hash. Or, I'll tell you what, since I am doing a shorter hike on this trip, they have something in this region called sheets. It's kind of like a convenience store. Usually sells gas, Olean, and hot food. And they also do custom burgers, and you can ask them to do no bun, which I am on a no carb diet right now. Not for New Hampshire. I'll be doing a real burger after that trip. But today I'm sticking to the keto. I'm thinking maybe I just suck it up and hold out for a burger at Sheetz, because honestly, first thing in the morning, all I usually have is coffee with the coconut oil. That usually gets me all the way till lunch, so I'm not really dying to have a sit-down meal right now anyway. Well, yeah, I think that's my plan. As much as I wanted to hang out with you guys and cook this ham up with some eggs over top, part of me just wants to get moving. I do have a prior engagement tonight, so I can't stick around too long. I do have a couple-hour drive home. So I'll probably pack up and then maybe make my way towards Sheetz for a burger once we get back to Port Clinton. All right. Of course, as soon as I say that, now I am starting to get hungry. Now I'm gonna hold in. I'm just about packed up now, so throw the rest of my belongings in the bag and we'll be good to go. Back on the trail, headed back towards Port Clinton, skipping breakfast. I completely forgot about how much downhill I did right at the end towards Pocahontas Spring, and well, that means I had a lot of uphill this morning. First thing in the morning, you know, it's not exactly what I needed on an empty stomach, so I'm working up an appetite for sure. What's this sign say? Public hunting grounds. So there you go. This is a boundary. Now earlier I was talking about the white splotches, but this is a nice sign. So I don't know if they're starting to phase into doing that, or it just depends where you are. I haven't seen any of the white splotches yet. But wait, look. Here's some evidence. This is what I'm talking about here. That's your white splotch style that can lead you astray. So they are around here, it seems. But that's okay. I'm just gonna stick to following these white blazes here. I will, by the way, be posting GPS data on my website. So if you want to see this, it's a pretty short trip, but if you want this data for any of my trips, you can hit my website and check that out. And play the home game, or download it on your own GPS and come out here yourself. Oh man, remember yesterday when I was talking about walking on the knife's edge? But I'm walking on a whole section here. I've been walking for a little while. Uphill again. None of my boot tracks, and my tracks are the only ones out here. So I was walking off the trail, just off-roading apparently for a little while yesterday. Now I think I might be linking back up with the actual trail up top here. That's pretty funny. I put myself through a little more torture than I had to yesterday. Here we go. And look at this. Nice little view down there. Beautiful. Nice day. No precipitation yet. Not bad. At this point, I'm going to focus on these rocks, quit running my mouth, and next thing you know, we'll be back in Port Clinton. Well, I do believe we made it, and that's a good sight in front of me. Yep, the Jeep is still there. A little muddy, but still here. Whew. Feels good to be back in a cushy seat. Get these gloves off. And my hunger is at a critical level, so I can't wait to get something to eat. Overall, a successful trip. I think we got a nice little taste of the Appalachian Trail. Just a couple days in the woods in the winter. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you everybody out there for coming along with me. GPS data for this trip and all my trips is available on my website in the trip data section. There's also links in the video description, as well as Amazon links for notable gear items that I used on this trip. Feel free to check those out, and a big thank you to those of you that use my Amazon link to go shopping. That helps support the channel and the next trip, which, by the way, in my case, will be New Hampshire. But enough of that. For now, I have to get refueled and back home to Delaware. So thanks everybody out there for joining me on this one. Till next time, I'm Syntax77, and right now, it's cheeseburger time.